The training hall fell silent as Lehana picked herself up from the floor. Again, her small body ached from the impact, and she could taste blood in her mouth. Around her, students from dozens of alien species watched with expressions ranging from pity to barely concealed disgust. The massive Krauen named Vex stood over her, his forearms crossed over his chest, shaking his head slowly. "Pathetic," he muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. How did a human even get accepted into Nexus Prime? Hannah said nothing. She simply wiped the blood from her lip and walked back to her position. The year was 2847, and the Nexus Prime Stellar Academy orbited Jupiter like a small moon. It was the most prestigious training facility in the known galaxy, where the elite from hundreds of worlds came to learn combat, strategy, and leadership. Hannah was one of only 5 humans in her class of 200 students. Commander Zethas, their instructor, clicked his 7 arms in disapproval. The tall octary moved with fluid grace as he approached Hannah. His multiple eyes examined her coldly. "Miss Lee," he said in his rasping voice, "perhaps you should consider transferring to the administrative track. Combat clearly is not your strength." "I can do better, sir," Hannah replied quietly. "Can you?" Zethas gestured to the scoreboard displayed on the wall. Hannah's name sat at the bottom, highlighted in red. She had lost every single sparring match this semester. "Your reflexes are slower than a Velikan by 40%. Your strength is 1/10 that of a Marlock's. Your spatial awareness cannot compare to even the weakest species here. What exactly can you do better?" Hannah clenched her fists, but kept her voice steady. "I can try, sir." Zethas made a dismissive sound and turned away. Class dismissed. "Miss Lee, report to remedial training tomorrow at 05:00 hours. Perhaps we can salvage something from your education." As the students filed out, Hannah could hear their whispers and laughter. She had heard it all before. Humans were weak. Humans were slow. Humans didn't belong among the stars. They were barely tolerated in the academy, accepted only because Earth had insisted on representation. Most species viewed humans as harmless curiosities at best, embarrassing liabilities at worst. Hannah gathered her training equipment slowly, waiting until the hall was mostly empty. She preferred it that way. Less attention meant fewer problems. She made her way through the curved corridors of the station, past groups of students who gave her barely a glance. To them, she was invisible, insignificant dot if only they knew the truth. Her small quarters were sparse and efficient. Hannah locked the door behind her and immediately dropped to the floor, beginning a series of exercises. Push-ups, but with her fingers instead of her palms. Squats on one leg while holding the other extended perfectly straight. A handstand against the wall where she lowered herself until her nose touched the floor, then pushed back up. Again and again and again. This was what she never showed anyone. The real training. The kind that would make people ask questions she couldn't answer. After an hour, Hannah showered and sat on her narrow bed. She pulled out a small data pad, her fingers moving across the screen with practiced efficiency. She was searching the Academy's archives, looking through restricted sections that technically she shouldn't be able to access. But Hannah had her ways. The files she read were about the Titan Wars, fought 300 years ago. Most species remembered it as a brutal conflict that nearly destroyed the galaxy. What they didn't remember, or perhaps never knew, was how it ended. The official records said it was a joint coalition victory. But Hannah knew better. Earth had sent its ghost operatives. Special soldiers trained in ways the galaxy didn't understand. They moved through enemy territory like shadows. They survived in conditions that should have killed them. They completed missions that were considered impossible. And then they vanished from history, their records sealed, their names forgotten. Hannah's great-grandmother had been one of them. Her grandmother, too. And her mother, though her mother had died young, as most ghost operatives did. The family legacy was written in sacrifice and secrets. The Whisper Protocol, she read in one heavily redacted file. Operatives capable of reducing biological functions to near-death levels while maintaining full consciousness. Survival in hard vacuum for up to 90 seconds. Pain suppression beyond. The file cut off there, censored by someone who didn't want the galaxy to know what humans could really do. A voice suddenly spoke from her doorway, making her jump. Interesting reading material. Hannah spun around to find Park Minho leaning against her doorframe. He was another human student, one of the few who didn't actively mock her. Minho was tall for a human, with an easygoing smile that hid sharp intelligence. "How did you get in here?" Hannah demanded, quickly closing the datapad. "You left your door unlocked," he said, which was a lie. Minho had his own skills, inherited from his own family legacy. "I brought you dinner. Figured you might skip the cafeteria after today's humiliation." He tossed her a food packet, which she caught without looking. Minho noticed this, but said nothing. "Thanks." Hannah muttered. Minho sat down uninvited on the floor across from her. "You know, you don't have to take it. The bullying, I mean. You could report them." "To who?" "Commander Zethus. He thinks I'm a waste of space. Then prove him wrong." Hannah gave him a sharp look. "I'm trying. Are you?" Minho asked quietly. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're holding back." The silence stretched between them. Hannah knew Minho was smart enough to have figured out some things. His grandfather had been Ghost Division, though Minho himself had never manifested the full abilities. He understood the burden of legacy. "If you have something to say, say it," Hannah told him. Minho stood up slowly. "Just be careful. People are starting to notice things. Small things. Like how you're always tired, but your physical scores don't match someone who trains as little as you pretend to. Or how you access restricted files without triggering any alarms. Or how you caught that food packet without even looking." Before Hannah could respond, her datapad beeped with an incoming message. Her blood ran cold when she saw the encryption signature. It was from Admiral Kim Taijin, head of Earth's Deep Space Intelligence. Her uncle. A man she hadn't spoken to in 5 years. The message was brief and terrifying. "Terminal attack imminent. Station compromise in 72 hours. You are the only one who can stop it. Activate Protocol 9. Hannah stared at the screen, her mind racing. Protocol 9. She knew what that meant. It was the emergency activation code, the thing she had hoped never to use. Once she triggered it, there would be no hiding anymore. No pretending to be weak. No blending in. Minho was reading over her shoulder. "That's bad," he said simply. "Get out," Hannah said. "Hannah, get out. Now you can't be involved in this." Minho backed toward the door, but paused at the threshold. "Whatever you're planning, you don't have to do it alone. Remember that." When he was gone, Hannah sat in the darkness of her quarters, staring at the message. Somewhere on this station, hidden among the thousands of students and staff, was a threat deadly enough to destroy everything. And apparently, she was the only one who could find it. She thought about her mother, who had died at 35, her body burned out from too many missions. She thought about her grandmother, who could barely walk by age 40. She thought about all the ghost operatives who had sacrificed their futures so that humanity could survive, and she made her choice. Hannah's fingers moved across the datapad, entering the long string of codes she had memorized as a child. As the final code activated, she felt something change inside her, like a door opening in her mind. Like chains falling away from muscles she had kept carefully restrained. Tomorrow, she would begin the hunt. And whether she liked it or not, the galaxy was about to learn what humans really were. The weak, helpless girl they all dismissed was about to become their worst nightmare. Or their only hope. Probably both. The maintenance tunnel was barely wide enough for Hana to squeeze through. She moved in complete darkness, her fingers finding handholds that shouldn't exist, her feet placing themselves with perfect precision on ledges she couldn't see. This was the third night since she had activated Protocol 9, and her body felt different, stronger, faster, more aware, but also more fragile. She could feel her cells working overtime, burning through energy at a rate that would eventually consume her. Every ghost operative knew the price. Use the abilities too much, too fast, and you shortened your life by decades. But what choice did she have? Admiral Taijin had sent her more information through encrypted channels. A terrorist group called the Void Collective had infiltrated Nexus Prime. They planned to detonate a quantum bomb somewhere in the station's core. Conventional scanners couldn't detect it because the bomb existed partially in subspace. Only someone with enhanced spatial awareness and the willingness to search manually could find it. Only someone like Hannah. She emerged from the tunnel into an abandoned cargo bay. The lights here had failed months ago, and no one had bothered to repair them. Hannah's eyes adjusted to the darkness in seconds, her pupils dilating far beyond normal human range. She could see the dust patterns on the floor, the scuff marks of boots, the signs that someone had been here recently. 3 sets of tracks. 2 Krallans based on the depth and spacing. 1 lighter species, possibly a Thindian. They had been carrying something heavy between them. Hannah followed the tracks to a sealed door. The control panel was locked with military-grade encryption. She pulled out a small device and connected it, but her fingers were already moving, calculating the cipher in her head. The device was just for show, in case anyone reviewed the logs later. By the time it finished its 3rd calculation attempt, Hannah had already mentally solved the encryption and entered the code manually. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was empty, except for some standard cargo containers. But Hannah's enhanced senses picked up something else. A scent, ozone, and something chemical. Recent energy discharge. Someone had been working with high-powered equipment here. She was about to investigate further when she heard movement behind her. Fast. Professional. Hannah spun and dropped low as a plasma blade. Sliced through the air where her head had been. The Krallan mercenary was good, she had to admit. He had approached almost silently, which was impressive for a species that weighed nearly 400 pounds. "You're not supposed to be here, little human," the Krallan growled. His name tag identified him as Rax, supposedly a station maintenance worker. But maintenance workers didn't carry military-grade plasma weapons. "Neither are you," Hannah replied calmly. Rax laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "No one will miss you." Another weak human who got lost and had an accident. Tragic. He lunged forward with surprising speed, the plasma blade humming through the air in a deadly arc. Most humans would have died in that moment. Even trained soldiers would have struggled. But Hannah wasn't most humans. She sidestepped the blade by millimeters, her body moving with precision that looked almost choreographed. Her hand shot out, fingers striking Rax's wrist at the exact pressure point needed to make him drop the weapon. Before the blade hit the ground, she was already moving. Using his own momentum against him, the fight lasted exactly 6 seconds. Rax found himself face down on the floor. His arms twisted behind him in a lock that sent shooting pain through his shoulders if he moved even slightly. He couldn't understand what had happened. Humans were weak, slow. This was impossible. "Start talking," Hannah said quietly. "The Void Collective." "Where's the bomb?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Rax gasped. Hannah applied slightly more pressure. Krallans had incredibly tough bones, but every species had vulnerable points. "Try again." You're just a student. How are you? Where is it? Something in her voice made Rax realize he was going to die if he didn't cooperate. This wasn't the scared girl he had seen being mocked in the training halls. This was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Sector 7, he gasped out. The Central Life Support Junction. But you can't reach it. It's phased into subspace. You'd need to physically reach through dimensional barriers. That would kill. He stopped talking because Hana had rendered him unconscious with a precise strike to his neck. She stood up slowly, her mind processing this new information. Sector 7, life support. Subspace phasing. She needed to report this to station security. That would be the smart thing. The safe thing. But then there would be questions. How did a student find this information? How did she defeat a trained Kralin mercenary? How did she know about quantum bombs and subspace phasing? Her secret would be exposed. And Earth had worked so hard to make the galaxy forget what humans could do when pushed to their limits. Hana was weighing her options when she heard footsteps approaching. Multiple people moving cautiously. She quickly dragged Rax's unconscious body behind some cargo containers and prepared to hide herself. But then she recognized one of the voices. The readings were coming from here. Some kind of fight. Commander ZETHO's. Hana had no time to escape. She pressed herself into the shadows, slowing her breathing to almost nothing. Another trick from the Ghost Operative Handbook. Humans could lower their metabolic rate to levels that made them nearly undetectable to most species. Sensors. Zethus entered with 2 security officers. His multiple eyes scanned the room methodically. Life signs? He asked. 1 Kralin, a security officer reported, checking a handheld scanner. Unconscious. No other readings. There should be someone else, Zethus insisted. The door didn't open itself. Hana remained perfectly still. Her heart rate was down to 20 beats per minute. Her body temperature had dropped 3 degrees. To the scanners, she appeared to be nothing more than a cold piece of the station's structure. They found Rax behind the containers. Zethus examined him carefully. Pressure point strikes. Precise. Professional. His eyes swept the room again. Someone with training did this. Should we review the security footage? An officer asked. Yes, and post guards on this sector. Whoever did this might return. As they carried Rax away, Zethus paused at the doorway. His eyes seemed to look directly at where Hana was hidden. For a long moment, neither moved. Then he turned and left, his voice drifting back. Get me every file we have on human combat history. Everything. When they were gone, Hana allowed herself to breathe normally again. Her body ached from the strain of suppressing her biological functions. She had maybe 20 minutes before the security footage was reviewed. 20 minutes before they saw her face on camera. She had to move fast. Hana accessed a nearby terminal, and her fingers flew across the keys. She couldn't delete the footage. That would be too obvious. But she could corrupt it just enough to make identification difficult. A few electrical surges in the right systems, some magnetic interference, nothing that would seem suspicious, but enough to blur the images. As she worked, her mind was already 3 steps ahead. She needed to reach Sector 7 before the Void Collective realized their man had been captured. She needed to find that bomb, and she needed to do it without revealing herself any more than she already had. A message appeared on her datapad. It was from Park Minho. I know what you did. Security is looking for you. We need to talk. Hana closed her eyes. Of course, Minho would figure it out. He was smart, and he knew too much about the Ghost legacy. She typed back, not now. His response was immediate. My grandfather's files. I have them. Information about subspace operations. You're going to need help. She wanted to say no, to tell him to stay away. But he was right. She had limited knowledge of subspace technology. The ghosts had been trained in many things, but quantum mechanics wasn't her strongest area. Where? She typed, Old Observatory, Level 23, 1 hour. Hana made her way out of the cargo bay through a different route, avoiding security patrols. She moved through the station like water, flowing around obstacles, finding paths that shouldn't exist. Other students passed within feet of her without noticing. To them, she was just another unremarkable human. Let them think that. Let them all think that. For a little while longer. But in his office, Commander Zethus was reviewing fragmented security footage. Even corrupted, it showed enough. A small figure moving with impossible speed. A Kralin warrior defeated in seconds. And though the face was blurred, Zethus could see the uniform. A student uniform. His multiple eyes narrowed as he pulled up enrollment records, filtering for humans in combat training. 5 names appeared on his screen. One of them was Lee Hana, the girl who couldn't pass a simple sparring match. The girl who seemed so weak, so helpless. Impossible, Zethus muttered. But he had lived long enough to know that impossible things happened every day in this galaxy. He began pulling up restricted files, searching for information that most species had forgotten or never known. Information about Earth's role in the Titan Wars, about soldiers who moved like ghosts and fought like demons, about humans who refused to die even when they should. And as he read, Commander Zethus felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. The old observatory had been abandoned for years. Most students didn't even know it existed, hidden away on level 23, behind maintenance corridors and forgotten storage rooms. Park Minho was waiting when Hana arrived, his face lit by the glow of multiple data pads spread across an ancient desk. "You're late," he said without looking up. "I had to lose a tail," Hana replied. "Security is crawling all over Sector 4. I know. The whole station is talking about it. Someone took down a Kralin mercenary with their bare hands. The footage is corrupted, but people are speculating." Minho finally looked at her, his expression serious. "They're scared, Hana, not because someone attacked a terrorist, but because it shouldn't be possible. Kralins are combat-trained warriors. Their bones are 3 times denser than most species. Whoever beat him wasn't normal. What have you found?" Hana asked, changing the subject. Minho gestured to the data pads. "My grandfather's files. He was Ghost Division, like I told you. He survived the Titan Wars, but died at 38. Burned out from too many missions." He pulled up a schematic. "This is what you're dealing with. Quantum bombs that exist partially in subspace are designed to be undetectable. The only way to disarm one is to reach through the dimensional barrier and manually disconnect the quantum couplings. And that would kill most species." Hana said, double quotes, yes. The pressure differential between normal space and subspace would crush most beings instantly. Even Marlocks with their incredible strength couldn't handle it. Minho paused. "But humans have something else. Compact bone structure. Redundant organ systems. We evolved on a death world, Hana. Our bodies can withstand pressures that would pulverize other species. We just have to be willing to pay the price." Hana studied the schematic carefully. "How long would I need to work inside the subspace field?" "Maybe 30 seconds. Long enough to disconnect 3 quantum couplings." Minho's voice was quiet. "Long enough to permanently damage your hand. Better than letting thousands die." "Maybe. But there's something else you need to know." Minho pulled up another file, this one heavily encrypted. The Void Collective didn't just plant one bomb. According to intercepted communications that my contact in Earth Intelligence sent me, there's a second device. And they have hostages. Hana felt her blood run cold. Where? We don't know yet. But they're going to make demands soon. They want the station evacuated so they can steal classified technology. If we refuse, they kill the hostages and detonate both bombs anyway. How many hostages? 20 students. Mixed species. They were taken during a field trip to the lower engineering levels. Hannah closed her eyes. This was worse than she thought. The Void Collective wasn't just trying to destroy the station. They were trying to create chaos, fear. They wanted to prove that even the galaxy's most prestigious academy wasn't safe. I need to find them, she said. Alone? Hannah, you're good, but you're not invincible. The ghost operatives worked in teams for a reason. I don't have a team. Yes, you do. Minho stood up. I'm coming with you. Hannah shook her head immediately. No, you don't have the full abilities. You'd just be dead weight? Minho smiled grimly. Maybe, but I have something you don't. My grandfather's training materials. His techniques for subspace navigation. His maps of the station's hidden areas. He pulled out a small data chip. And I have the access codes for emergency systems that only Earth intelligence knows about. You need me, whether you want to admit it or not. Before Hannah could argue, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed the observatory in crimson. A voice boomed over the intercom system, speaking in Galactic Standard. Attention all personnel. This is Commander Zethus. We have a confirmed hostage situation. 20 students are being held in Sector 9. All combat-trained personnel report to your stations. All other students and staff are to shelter in place. This is not a drill. Minho and Hannah exchanged looks. Sector 9, Minho said. That's near the secondary reactor. If they detonate a bomb there, the whole station loses power. Life support fails. We'd have maybe 6 hours before everyone suffocates. Hannah grabbed her datapad. We need to move. Now. They made their way through the station's maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where security teams were mobilizing. Hannah led the way, her enhanced senses picking up the subtle air currents and temperature changes that indicated which paths were safe and which were monitored. How are you doing that? Minho asked after they had bypassed their third security checkpoint without being detected. Doing what? Knowing where to go. It's like you can sense the patrols before we see them. Hannah didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, enhanced awareness. Part of the ghost package. I can detect body heat through walls, sense electromagnetic fields from equipment, hear heartbeats from 50 meters away. It's useful. It's also exhausting. The cellular degradation your uncle warned you about? Every time I use these abilities, my cells work harder than they're designed to. Eventually, they'll wear out faster than they can repair themselves. She looked back at him. I'll be lucky to reach 40. That's the price of being a ghost. They reached a junction point where Minho consulted his grandfather's maps. There's an old service shaft that runs directly to Sector 9. It was sealed off 20 years ago, but according to these files, the seals can be opened from the inside if you know how. Show me. They found the sealed shaft behind a false wall panel. Hannah examined the locking mechanism for a moment. Then her fingers moved with incredible precision, manipulating components that seemed fused together. Within 30 seconds, the seal hissed open. Grandpa took 3 minutes to open these, Minho said, impressed despite himself. You did it in 30 seconds. Your grandfather was working with first-generation enhancements. The program improved over time. Hannah peered into the dark shaft. This is a straight drop. At least 40 meters. Great. How do we get down? Hannah pulled out a thin cable from her equipment pack. We climb. Can you handle it? Minho looked at the drop and swallowed hard. Do I have a choice? Not really. They descended into darkness. Hannah moved like a spider, finding handholds that shouldn't support weight, but somehow did. Minho followed more carefully, his muscles burning with effort. Halfway down, he slipped. Hana's hand shot out and caught his wrist before he could fall more than a meter. She pulled him back against the wall with one hand, barely straining. Minho looked at her in shock. A normal human shouldn't have that kind of strength, especially not while hanging from a cable themselves. "Don't mention it," Hana said quietly. "We need to keep moving." When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a narrow tunnel that ran along the station's outer hull. Through reinforced windows, they could see Jupiter's swirling atmosphere below. Minho checked his maps again. Sector 9 should be through that maintenance hatch. He pointed ahead. But there's a problem. According to the station's sensors, there are at least 6 armed hostiles in there, plus the 20 hostages. What kind of weapons? Plasma rifles, particle disruptors, maybe some explosives. Standard terrorist loadout. Hannah considered this. 6 armed terrorists, 20 terrified students, unknown bomb location, and the clock was ticking. She could feel her enhanced metabolism burning through her energy reserves. She estimated she had maybe 2 hours of peak performance left before she'd need to rest. 2 hours to save 20 lives and prevent a catastrophe. "Okay," she said finally. "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to stay here and monitor communications. If anything goes wrong, you contact Commander's Ethos and tell him where we are." "And what are you going to do?" Hana looked at the maintenance hatch, then back at Minho. Her eyes were hard, determined. "I'm going to show them what humans really are." She opened the hatch quietly and slipped through before Minho could stop her. Inside, she found herself in a dark corridor that ran along the back of Sector 9's main chamber. She could hear voices ahead, frightened student voices, harsh terrorist voices. Hana closed her eyes and let her enhanced senses take over. She could hear 6 distinct heartbeats among the terrorists. 4 Krallans, 1 Thindian, 1 species she didn't recognize, possibly a Draxian. She could smell their weapons, the ozone from charged plasma rifles. She could feel the vibrations of their footsteps through the metal floor. Most importantly, she could hear what they were saying. "Earth will negotiate," one Krallan was saying. "They always protect their own. When they see what we're willing to do, they'll give us what we want. And if they don't?" Another voice asked. "Then we make an example. Show the galaxy that humans are as weak as everyone thinks. Kill a few, let the rest watch. That'll motivate their precious governments." Hannah felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear, not anger. Something else. The same thing her great-grandmother must have felt during the Titan Wars. The same thing every ghost operative felt when they accepted their mission. Purpose. She activated protocol 9 to full capacity for the first time since arriving at the academy. Her body responded instantly. Heart rate spiked to 200 beats per minute, then stabilized. Muscles filled with oxygen and energy. Neural pathways expanded, processing information at incredible speeds. Time seemed to slow down around her. This was what humans could do when they stopped holding back. This was the secret Earth had kept for 300 years. This was why the Titan Wars ended so suddenly. Hana moved into the chamber like a ghost, like smoke, like death itself. And the terrorists never saw her coming. The first terrorist died without making a sound. One moment he was standing guard at the entrance to Sector 9. The next he was unconscious on the floor. The Krallan's massive body simply collapsed, brought down by precise strikes to nerve clusters that his thick skull couldn't protect. Hannah dragged him into the shadows before anyone noticed. 1 down. 5 to go. She moved through the darkened corridor like water, her body finding paths through spaces that seemed too small. Every movement was calculated, efficient. No wasted energy. No unnecessary risks. This was Ghost Protocol at full activation, and it felt like coming home. Like remembering something she had always known. The 20 hostages were gathered in the center of the main chamber, sitting on the floor with their hands bound. They were a mix of species, young students who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Their faces showed fear, confusion, and exhaustion. Around them, the remaining 5 terrorists kept watch with weapons ready. Through the doorway, Hana could see the quantum bomb. It was partially phased into subspace, appearing as a shimmering distortion in reality. Beautiful and deadly. 2 of the Krallans stood near it, as if guarding it made any difference. Once armed, that bomb didn't need protection. It needed a miracle to stop it. Good thing humans specialized in miracles. Hana evaluated her options. Direct assault was too risky with the hostages in the line of fire. She needed to separate the terrorists, take them down one by one without alerting the others. Standard ghost tactics. Her great-grandmother had done this dozens of times during the war. A ventilation shaft ran above the chamber. Hana climbed up silently, her fingers and toes finding purchase on surfaces that looked completely smooth. Inside the shaft, she moved like a snake, distributing her weight so carefully that the metal didn't even creak. She positioned herself directly above the Thindian terrorist, who was pacing nervously near the hostages. She waited. Patience was part of the training, too. Wait for the right moment. Wait for opportunity. The Thindian moved directly beneath her. Hana dropped through the vent cover, landed on his shoulders, and had him unconscious before his weapon hit the ground. She caught the plasma rifle before it clattered and slowly lowered both the terrorist and the weapon to the floor. 2 down. 4 to go. But one of the hostages saw her. A young Velikan female whose enhanced vision picked up Hana's movement in the dim light. Their eyes met, and Hana put a finger to her lips. The Velikan's eyes widened in recognition, then understanding. She gave the tiniest nod and looked away, making sure the other hostages didn't notice. Hana slipped back into the shadows, just as one of the Krallans turned around. "Where's Grix?" He growled, looking for the Thindian. "Probably checking the perimeter," another Krallan replied. "You know how nervous he gets. Well, tell him to get back here. We need everyone ready when they make contact." The Krallan who had spoken walked toward where Hana had just been. She was already moving, circling around behind him. Ghost operatives didn't fight fair. They fought to win. As the Krallan passed a support pillar, Hana struck. Her hand found the pressure point at the base of his skull, and he went down like a fallen tree. 3 down. 3 to go. But this time, the sound of his falling body alerted the others. "What was that?" One shouted. Plasma rifles powered up with distinctive whines. The remaining terrorists formed a defensive circle, their backs to the hostages. Hana knew she had seconds before they started shooting in panic. She also knew that panicked terrorists would likely start killing hostages. She had to act now. She stepped out of the shadows into clear view. The 3 remaining Krallans stared at her in confusion. A small human girl, standing alone, unarmed. It made no sense. "Who are you?" Their leader demanded. "Lee Hana," she said calmly. "Student. Earth native. Ghost Division." The name meant nothing to the younger terrorists. But their leader, who was older, who might have heard the stories from the war, went very still. "That's impossible. The ghosts were disbanded centuries ago. Were they?" Hana asked. She took a step forward. The terrorists raised their weapons. "Tell me something. Do you know why Earth won the Titan Wars? You outnumbered us. You had better technology. You had home field advantage. But you still lost. Do you know why?" "Shut up," the leader snarled. "One more step and we start shooting hostages." "You asked the wrong question." Hana continued as if he hadn't spoken. You should have asked, what are humans willing to do to protect their own? What are they capable of when they stop pretending to be weak? She moved Dot to the terrorists. She seemed to simply vanish and reappear behind them. In reality, Hana had sprinted forward at a speed her enhanced muscles could manage for brief bursts. She had ducked under the first plasma blast, used a support pillar to change direction mid-motion, and closed the distance before their brains could process what was happening. The first Kraulan swung his weapon like a club. Hana caught it, redirected the momentum, and used the terrorist's own strength against him. He stumbled forward, and she struck the back of his knee, then his neck as he fell. One unconscious body hit the floor. The second terrorist fired his plasma rifle at point-blank range. Hana was already moving, rolling to the side. The plasma bolt missed her by centimeters, so close she could feel the heat. She came up inside his guard, struck his weapon arm to make him drop the rifle, then delivered a combination of strikes to nerve clusters that shut down his nervous system. 2 terrorists left. The leader and one more. They had backed away, their weapons trained on the hostages now instead of Hana. Stop, the leader commanded, or I start killing them. Hana froze. She could move fast enough to take them both, but not before at least one hostage died. Her enhanced reflexes showed her the probabilities, the angles, the timing. 95% chance of success. But 5% meant death for an innocent student. Unacceptable odds. You know what the problem is with you people? The leader said, his weapon steady on a hostage's head. You're too moral. Too weak. You won't make the hard choices. You're wrong, said a new voice. Park Minho stepped out from behind another support pillar. He wasn't enhanced like Hana. He didn't have her speed or strength. But he had his grandfather's training, and he had courage. In his hands was the plasma rifle from one of the unconscious terrorists. 2 of you, 2 of us, Minho said. His voice was steady despite his fear. You shoot a hostage, we shoot you. Your choice. The terrorist leader laughed. You're bluffing. You're just students. You don't have the stomach for killing. Try me, Minho said. And something in his voice made the terrorist pause. Because Minho wasn't bluffing. He had grown up hearing his grandfather's stories. He knew what humans had done during the war, what they had sacrificed, what they were still willing to sacrifice. The moment of hesitation was all Hana needed. She moved again, this time throwing herself between the terrorist's weapon and the hostages. The plasma bolt hit her shoulder instead of a student's head. The pain was instant and terrible, but ghost training included pain management. Hana processed it, compartmentalized it, and kept moving. She hit the leader with everything she had. He was bigger, stronger, but she was faster and more precise. She struck points on his body that his thick skin couldn't protect. Nerve clusters, joints, vulnerable organs. In 3 seconds, he was on the ground. The last terrorist tried to run. Minho's plasma bolt caught him in the leg. Not a fatal shot, but enough to stop him. The terrorist fell, and Hana was there, striking the precise point on his skull that would render him unconscious without causing permanent damage. Then it was over. 6 terrorists down. 20 hostages safe. Hana swayed on her feet, her enhanced metabolism finally catching up with her. The plasma burn on her shoulder screamed for attention. She had pushed her body too hard, too fast. She could feel her cells struggling to keep up with the demands she had placed on them. Minho was suddenly there, supporting her. Easy, I've got you. The hostages were staring at them both in shock. A young warlock spoke first, his voice trembling. What are you? Hana looked at him, then at all the others. All the species who had dismissed humans as weak, who had mocked her in training, who had never bothered to wonder why Earth was so quiet, so careful, so determined to seem harmless. "We're human," she said simply. "This is what we are." Then the main doors burst open, and Commander Zethos entered with a full security team. His multiple eyes took in the scene instantly. 6 unconscious terrorists, 20 unharmed hostages, 2 humans standing in the middle of it all, one of them bleeding from a plasma wound. "Miss Lee," Zethus said slowly, "I think we need to talk." But Hana was looking past him, at the quantum bomb still shimmering in subspace. "No time. The bomb. I need to disarm it." "That's impossible. The pressure differential would kill anyone who tries to reach into subspace." "Not anyone," Hana said. She walked toward the bomb, her shoulder still bleeding. "Just most people." "Hana, no," Minho protested. "You're already injured. Your body can't take any more. It can take enough." She stood before the shimmering distortion, studying it. "Tell me something, Commander. Did you finish reading those files about human combat history?" Zethus nodded slowly. "I did. The ghost operatives. The Whisper Protocol. Things I thought were myths." "No myths," Hana said. "Just humans doing what we do best, surviving." She took a deep breath and reached toward the subspace field. "Now everyone step back. This is going to hurt." Her hand entered the dimensional barrier, and she felt reality itself trying to crush her. The pressure was immense, like being at the bottom of an ocean. Her bones creaked. Her skin felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. But her compact human skeletal structure held. Just barely. Her fingers found the first quantum coupling. She disconnected it, forcing her hand to work despite the pain. Then the second. Then the third. Her hand was being destroyed. She could feel bones cracking, tendons tearing. But she kept working. 30 seconds, Minot had said. She counted them off in her head. 25, 26, 20-7... A bomb deactivated with a soft click. Hana pulled her hand back from subspace, and it was mangled, crushed, almost unrecognizable. She looked at it calmly, then at Commander Zethus. "One bomb down," she said. "Now about the second one." Then her legs gave out, and everything went dark. Hana woke to white walls and the smell of medical disinfectant. Her body ached in ways she had never experienced before. Every cell felt like it had been wrung out and left to dry. She tried to move her right hand and gasped. The pain was immediate and sharp. "Don't try to move it," a calm voice said. Hana turned her head slowly to see Dr. Yuna Cho sitting beside her bed. Yuna was one of the few human doctors on the station, a woman in her late 30s with tired eyes that had seen too much. Hana recognized her immediately. Another legacy case. Ghost Medical Division? How bad? Hana asked, her voice raspy. "Your hand?" Yuna examined the medical display. 3 bones shattered. 4 tendons torn completely through. Severe nerve damage. "I've stabilized it, but you'll need extensive reconstruction. Even with our best treatments, you'll probably never regain full function." Hana closed her eyes. "What about the rest?" "Cellular degradation at 47%. You pushed Protocol 9 too hard, too fast. Your metabolism is barely keeping up with basic repair functions." Yuna's voice was gentle but firm. "I've seen this before, Hana. You're going down the same path as every ghost operative before you. If you keep using these abilities, you'll be lucky to see 35. Did they find the second bomb?" Yuna sighed. "You just woke up from a 3-week coma, and that's your first question? Not about your hand, or your health, or even what happened while you were unconscious." 3 weeks? Hana tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Everything hurt. Easy. You put your body through more stress than it was designed to handle. 3 weeks of medical treatment was actually optimistic. Most patients with your injuries would have needed months. Yuna helped adjust her bed. And yes, they found the second bomb. It was in the central reactor core. Commander Zethus led a team to disarm it after you showed them what was possible. No one died. You saved the entire station. Good, Hana said softly. Then what about the hostages? The students I rescued? All safe. All talking. Word spread fast about what happened. Yuna pulled up a news feed on the medical display. The galaxy is having a collective meltdown about it. Hana watched the news reports with growing dismay. Footage of her fighting the terrorists had been recovered from security cameras. Enhanced and clarified, it showed everything. Her impossible speed, her precise strikes, her ability to take down multiple armed Krallans single-handedly. The video had gone viral across 100 worlds. Humanity's secret weapons, one headline screamed. Earth's hidden army, said another. The ghosts were real, declared a third. Every species is demanding answers, Yuna explained. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. Earth's government is scrambling to control the narrative. Some species want humans quarantined. Others want to hire us as mercenaries. A few are just terrified. This is exactly what we tried to avoid, Hana muttered. Earth spent 300 years convincing everyone we were harmless. And I destroyed that in one night. You saved lives, Yuna corrected. Don't forget that part. Before Hana could respond, the door opened and Admiral Kim Taijin walked in. Her uncle looked older than she remembered, his face lined with stress and exhaustion. He nodded to Dr. Cho, who quietly excused herself. You're awake, Taijin said. Good, we need to talk. I'm sorry, Hana began. I didn't mean to expose. Stop. Taijin held up a hand. What you did was necessary. What happened was inevitable. We couldn't hide forever, Hana. Eventually, someone was going to push too hard, and humanity was going to push back. It just happened to be you. He sat down heavily in the chair Yuna had vacated. I've been dealing with the fallout. The Council wants testimony. They want to understand what humans really are, what we're capable of. What did you tell them? The truth. Taijin pulled out a data pad. I showed them the records from the Titan Wars. Not the sanitized versions, but the real files. What the ghost operatives did. How we ended a war that was unwinnable by conventional means. He looked at her directly. I told them that humans evolved on a death world. That our planet tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. That we survived by adapting, by enduring, by refusing to give up no matter what. How did they react? Mixed responses. Fear, mostly, but also respect. Admiral Thrix, the Krallan commander, said something interesting. He said, we have spent centuries building warriors through combat and honor. Humans built warriors through survival and stubbornness. We should have recognized the greater threat. Hana processed this. What happens now? That depends on you. Taijin leaned forward. Earth wants you to become an official representative. A bridge between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Show them that we're not weapons. We're just survivors who learn to be very good at staying alive. And if I refuse? Then you recover here, finish your studies, and go home to a quiet life. No one will force you to be anything you don't want to be. Hana looked at her mangled hand, at the medical readouts showing her damaged body. 3 weeks in a coma, permanent injuries, years cut from her life, all because she had done what needed to be done. I'll do it, she said, but on my terms. Taijin smiled slightly. I expected nothing less. What are your terms? No more hiding. No more pretending humans are weak. But also no exploitation. We're not soldiers for hire. We're not weapons to be pointed at problems. Hannah met her uncle's eyes. We're survivors, and we'll teach anyone willing to learn how to survive. But we won't become what the galaxy fears. We'll show them what humanity really is. And what is that? Hope, Hannah said simply. We survived the death of our planet. We survived the Titan Wars. We survived being dismissed and mocked and underestimated. If we can do that, anyone can learn to survive their own challenges. Over the next few months, Nexus Prime transformed. The attitude toward humans shifted from mockery to cautious respect. Hannah, once recovered enough to walk, found herself giving lectures to packed auditoriums. Not about combat or tactics, but about survival, about adaptation, about refusing to give up. Commander Zethus approached her one day in the training hall, the same place where she had been knocked down so many times, where Vex had called her pathetic. Miss Lee, Zethus said formally, I owe you an apology. I judged you by appearances and failed to see the truth beneath. You saw what I wanted you to see, Hannah replied. That was the point. Perhaps. But I should have known better. I've lived long enough to understand that strength takes many forms. He gestured to the training hall. I would like to invite you to become an instructor here. Not to teach combat, but to teach what you know about survival, adaptation, and endurance. Will you accept? Hannah looked around the hall, at the students watching from the sidelines, at the equipment she had deliberately failed to use properly for so long, at the scoreboard where her name had always been at the bottom. I'll accept, she said, but I won't train warriors. I'll train survivors. That's all I ask. Word of Hannah's first class spread quickly. Students from dozens of species showed up, filling the training hall beyond capacity. They came out of curiosity or fear or genuine desire to learn. Hannah stood before them, her damaged hand in a supportive brace, and began. You all know what happened, she said. You've seen the footage. You know what I am. But what you don't understand is why. She paused, looking at each face in turn. Humans aren't special because we're strong. We're special because we fall down and get back up. Every single time. She walked among the students, letting them see her limp, her brace, her scars. I'm damaged now, permanently. I'll never have full use of my hand. My body aged years in a single night. By most standards, I'm weaker now than I was before. A Kralin student raised his hand. It was Vex, the one who had beaten her in sparring. Then what makes you strong? Hannah smiled. I'm still here. That's what makes me strong. And that's what I'm going to teach you. Not how to win fights, but how to survive them. How to adapt when things go wrong. How to keep going when everything says to give up. She spent the next hour demonstrating techniques. Not combat moves, but survival skills. How to control your breathing under stress. How to find strength when exhausted. How to use your environment to your advantage. How to turn weaknesses into strengths. The students were fascinated. This wasn't the typical training they received. This was something deeper. More fundamental. Park Minho watched from the back of the hall, smiling. His friend had found her purpose. Not as a warrior, but as a teacher. Not as a weapon, but as a guide. After class, a group approached Hannah, the Velikan who had seen her during the hostage rescue, the Marlocks who had asked what she was, even Vex, the Kralin who had once mocked her. We want to learn more, the Velikan said. Not just survival techniques, but your mindset, how humans think about problems. Why? Hannah asked. Because you see things differently than we do, Vex explained. We Kralins are taught that strength is everything. But you showed me that there are different kinds of strength. Endurance, adaptability, stubbornness. He bowed his head, a sign of deep respect in his culture. I was wrong about you. About all humans. I would like to learn from my mistake." Hana looked at this group of students, representing species from across the galaxy, all wanting to learn from the girl they had once dismissed. She thought about her mother, her grandmother, her great-grandmother, all the ghost operatives who had sacrificed their futures so humanity could survive. "All right," she said, "but understand this. What I teach won't make you stronger in the traditional sense. It won't help you win more fights or intimidate your enemies. What it will do is help you survive when you should die. Help you adapt when you should fail. Help you keep going when everything tells you to quit. That's exactly what we need," the Velikan said quietly. In the administrative offices, Admiral Taijin received reports from across the galaxy. The emergency council session had concluded. After weeks of debate, a decision had been reached. Humanity would be recognized as a fully rated species with all rights and responsibilities. The fear remained, but it was tempered by respect and understanding. More importantly, a new program was being established. The Survival Initiative, headed by representatives from Earth, would teach adaptation and endurance techniques to any species willing to learn. It was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or warriors, but the knowledge that had kept them alive through the worst circumstances imaginable. Dr. Yuna Cho monitored Hana's health carefully over the following months. The cellular degradation had stabilized, but the damage was permanent. Hana would live with limitations for the rest of her life. She would never regain full use of her hand. She would tire more easily than before. She had aged years in a single night, but she was alive. And she was making a difference. "You did good, kid," Yuna told her during a checkup. "Your mother would be proud." "My mother died at 35, Hana replied quietly. "Used up and burned out." "Yes, but she saved lives doing it. Just like you. Just like all of us." Yuna gestured to her own medical chart, showing her own cellular degradation. "We Ghost Division members don't get long lives, but we get meaningful ones. Is that enough?" "It has to be." Months turned into a year. Hana continued teaching, and her classes grew more popular. The story of the human girl who saved Nexus Prime became legend, but Hana herself remained remarkably normal. She walked with a limp. Her hand would never fully heal. She got tired more easily than she once did, but she was happy. For the first time in her life, she wasn't hiding, wasn't pretending, wasn't limiting herself to fit others' expectations. She was simply Lee Hana, human, survivor, teacher. One evening, she stood in the observation deck with Minho, watching Jupiter's eternal storm rage below. They had become close friends during her recovery, bonded by shared legacy and shared understanding. "Do you regret it?" Minho asked. "Everything that happened?" Hana thought about it for a long moment. About her damaged hand, her shortened lifespan, her permanent injuries. About the fear in some species' eyes when they looked at her. About the burden of being humanity's representative. Then she thought about the 20 hostages who lived because she acted. About the thousands on the station who survived because she found the bombs. About the students who now understood that survival was its own form of strength. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it. Let them see us for what we are. Let them know that Earth survived by being stubborn and refusing to die. That's not a weakness. That's the greatest strength of all." Minho smiled. The galaxy wanted warriors. Now they know what warriors really look like. Not warriors, Hana corrected gently. Survivors. That's what humans are. And that's what we'll teach them to be. Below them, Jupiter's great red spot swirled eternally. A storm that had raged for centuries and would rage for centuries more. Unyielding, persistent, enduring, just like humanity. The ghosts had walked in the light. The legends had become truth. And the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Not as weak or helpless or insignificant, but as the species that refused to give up. The species that fell down and got back up. Every single time. That was humanity's true strength. Not hidden abilities or secret powers. Simply the stubborn, relentless refusal to quit. And now, finally, the galaxy understood.